All right, good morning, everybody. How are you today? I hope you're doing so well. Thanks for joining me for a little fasting space. Today, I thought I would chat about a weight loss roadmap. I thought I'd call it a fasting roadmap. It's like a weight loss roadmap that fasting can be a good part of. So we'll dive into that today. Thought also I would just start out our session thinking a little bit about gratitude. I've been thinking about gratitude in general and how, so many times we can be naturally programmed. It's like you accomplish something. It's like, okay, on to the next thing, on to the next thing. And it's part of being present, right? Gratitude is part of being present, like not always working, not always doing, taking some time to be and to reflect and then to just be grateful. And that can be a centering sort of practice. And so wherever you are, let's take a minute or two together and start this time with a little bit of reflection. When I say gratitude, what are you thinking of this morning? And it can be hard if you're in a difficult place. So practicing gratitude, sometimes you're in a season where it can be easy. Some good thing just happened and you say, I'm so grateful for it. It'd be really hard to do, in certain seasons. So definitely want to acknowledge that. If you're not in a place to do it, that's all right. Taking some open space just to reflect on wherever you're at in a season is just fine as well. But it can be okay. Gratitude, too, if you're in a difficult season, can be a practice that can help you through it, too. To see the good, even if that good is a ways in the past, just to reconnect to that in the midst of a difficulty. So those are some things to think about. My reflection of gratitude this morning, I'm just reflecting on the 4th of July weekend that we just are in the midst of here and got to spend some time with my family. And I'm so grateful for that. My brother and his family got together with my folks and my family, and it was really nice. So, a fasting roadmap, a weight loss roadmap. I was thinking this week about how it can be easier to move forward, like if you can see the path. Sometimes it's like we can't see the path and we need to trust and we need to take a step. And because, that's life, right? Things aren't always clear. But to the extent that we can make things clear, then it can make the road easier. So that's what I want to move toward in this session. I thought I'd do that in two ways. Last week, I reviewed, just as kind of a process, reflect on the journey, or reviewed the live sessions that we've done over the year here, as we're not quite through a year of live, but getting close. And I thought today, I was thinking, I should do the same thing just with the videos we've made, and then part of that is a process for myself, thinking about where have we gone on the channel, what have we done, what does the future look like. I'm doing a lot of thinking in that regard. And I thought, well, we can jump in to the channel videos. And then I got kind of stuck for a while just thinking about some of the first ones. And I thought, so for people who are coming through, You say, what is simple fasting? How do you do that? What is that? Well, let's start at the beginning, I thought, and I'll show you some videos, and then it's kind of like a development of my thinking is creating a roadmap. Like, because what I want people to be able to come in, watch through things, and like get up to speed and feel like, oh, this would be a path that would be easy to follow, and then work through the barriers, because there's many barriers to losing weight. That is why so few people are able to sustainably do it in our country. Well, globally, anywhere. I've seen different studies on this. Ranging from like only 3% to maybe 10%, somewhere between 3 and 10% of people who go on some sort of weight loss process only way less a year later. And so that's kind of the ballpark, you know. And I would say that mirrored my clinical practice in medicine for many years until I found out about fasting, and then we started deviating from the curve. I have many people who have been able to sustainably lose weight and keep it off by integrating a fasting practice into their lifestyle. What a beautiful, beautiful thing that fasting came to me. So let me see if I can bring this up for you. So here's our channel. And I think some of the earliest videos, if we go back, I don't have them on the main page anymore. So if we go videos and scroll all the way to the bottom, 2 years ago we get back here. Type 2 diabetes healing, that's where I told the story of how all this started. When fasting came to me on the first day, I saw such wonderful healing for people. For a patient, very inspiring. And then here's some videos. Fasting contentment, avoid weight loss hype. This is still what I'm trying to do. Find contentment and success with fasting. So I love that that's kind of where we started. I watched these again the other day, and yeah, I love that. I put this in my little disclaimer video, just reasons to avoid fasting. Fasting not for everybody. So I link that video on every video. The main reason to avoid fasting, if you don't want to do it, that's what I tell people. Sometimes I'm talking to people, oh, fasting sounds stressful. I'm like, fasting to me is anti-stressful. Once you get in the mindset of it to realize, hey, this is open space for the body, to give the body a break. It's restful. That's anti-stressful. But don't fast if you don't want to lose weight. Don't fast if you don't have a thoughtful reason to do it. So that's connected, right? These two. No hype, not magic. And this is where I got focused this week on this first little 1-minute video. This is where I'm trying to frame the whole fasting experience for people. So if people coming in, start here on the channel, maybe I should put those back on the main page. I think I might, because this is such a nice way to start. Maybe I'll make a website where I give a little commentary and try to help walk people through it. One life-changing sentence: fasting, weight loss, simplicity. Yeah, I do love that. So the sentence is just eat 2 healthy meals in a 6 to 8 hour window each day and see if that's good enough. And I love that sentence because it packs so much thoughtful perspective into one little phrase that you can remember. So eating twice, if you are looking for a roadmap, how do I get to a place where I can practice fasting? Well, here's a good place to start. Just eat twice, Can you get to that place? And then, people going to be at different places with that. And then not to skip ahead, but that idea is very connected, with this other video, which is one of my favorites, your ideal fasting level, And I talk in there, if someone's coming in and they say, well, just eating twice in a day, very hard for me. Okay, you can work your way to it. And that's the approach that you want to take to not be overwhelmed. Like if some people eating 6 times a day, 3 meals and 3 snacks. It's like, well, just knock out a snack, and go from 6 to 5 and then sit in that for a while. The body's very capable of adjusting. And when we give the body space, we move toward something thoughtfully, then the body can adjust and it makes a transition easier. So work your way down to eating twice. For many people, eating 2 times in a day is enough. It's enough to feel content, A lot of times, do you ever do it? Just sleep in on the weekend and have brunch and then have dinner? Like, people wouldn't even call that fasting. That's why I say simple fasting. It's a practice, just dipping your toe in the water, something that someone would do normally. They wouldn't even call it fasting. It's just eating twice in a day. I just ate twice in a day that day. It's a perfectly normal thing to do. So that's where you want to start. And then the thing of it is, to make a routine of it, that's enough for many people to slowly and sustainably lose weight over time. But not everybody. But I would say you're getting in the vicinity of 70%, who are eating 2 healthy meals are, getting on a good track. I've had people 8 years eating twice a day. It's the only dietary intervention they ever made. And it was good enough to help them maintain their weight in the long term. Get it down into a good space and stay there. Just eat 2. Healthy is a key word. What we eat, probably the most important health decision that we make. We are what we eat in a big way. Our bodies are made out of the materials that we bring into it, and we need good nutrition, no doubt. And so when I'm talking about healthy eating and fasting, to me, that's 2 sides of the same coin, because we need healthy food and we need periods of space without food so that the body can adequately process everything that we're eating and get everything settled and run the maintenance modes. And then a 6 to 8 hour window, that's a big key. Eating twice in a day without putting it in a window still can be a weight loss process. I always tell people, if you can do a reduced meal frequency program, but your lifestyle and situation doesn't let you open up a bigger fasting space, it's all a step. These are all steps in a direction. And so, if that works for somebody and that fits their lifestyle and they accomplish what they want, I never tell anybody not to do it. But the way to increase the intensity is to put those meals in a 6 to 8 hour window, and then you open up that 16 to 18 hours on the other side, and that's when you start getting into those autophagy effects that are so good. And then I just say the end of that sentence, see if that's good enough, because it might be, but you can't guarantee it. But just try it out and see how it is, and if it's good enough, then that's great. And if it's not good enough, then you continue on the path. So what I hope this session is going to do is outline what does that path look like. I'm showing you on the channel, with videos. What does it look like to work the process? And then what does it look like to actually just do it? So dial in with the sentence, and then weight loss clarity. This video is just me basically saying what I just said, kind of talking through the sentence. And then we start into these playlists, and you don't have to go through all the videos one by one. If we go back to the main section, then we get into these series. Find your weight loss path. And this would put fasting and the whole thing in perspective. I like that. So here's a series. Effective weight loss starts with mental health. I totally believe that. I really do believe it. Queen Bee is here. Good morning. So nice to have you here. I hope you're doing well today. Yeah, this video, effective weight loss starts with mental health. I talk in that one about boredom a lot, and boredom is, I say in there, is kind of like the very beginning of a mental health issue. Boredom is nothing like depression and anxiety and PTSD and all these sort of things, but it's still a mental state where we lack contentment. And, our culture is definitely, we've talked about it on the channel, this, how would you say it, attention culture, right? Always watching something, always trying to be distracted, and try to keep ourselves from feeling bored, because if we're feeling bored, then we might want to start stress eating, right? We need something. This is what I think is so interesting, and this is how fasting is bridging this space between a physical practice and a mental practice. Fasting, you say, technically it's just physical. It's a physical experience, no food, empty food space, in the body. But then it can be an empty mental space, right? Where if we don't have a distraction and we want to be doing something, these are kind of the two modes that people default to: watch something or eat something. And so that video gets into it. These are some of the first videos I did. And, I was watching it the other day. I was talking a lot about boredom. I actually think it can be kind of a boring video, actually. That's what I was laughing. I was like, I should have but that's the balance that we're all in, is like you try to approach something thoughtfully, and they say, well, does it really fit into this culture? I don't know. It's kind of an interesting thought. But then I walk through it. This is find your path. Sometimes just focusing on mental health as a path to weight loss is what people really need to get a handle on that space, tolerating an empty space, both mentally, removing distractions so you can focus on mental health. Fasting is like a path that's taking you into there. Sometimes that's what people really need to get control of, like, food cravings, stress eating. Maybe that's enough without any other practice. That's why I put it first. I think it's so important. And then I talk, about exercise and healthy eating, fasting, some reflections on weight loss medicines. So that's there as a resource. Find your weight loss path. I love that. And then, I don't know if I need to reorder these. The next series that I put together was this one up here, Core Fasting Series. And that's what it is. So if you're coming through, you're saying, how do I start fasting? Okay, this one, do this to start your fasting weight loss journey. I do a food inventory, and I help people kind of go through and find, like, all the times they're eating, because that's kind of a mindfulness practice in and of itself. So many times we aren't even aware of everything that we're eating, and it can really help to, like, write it out. That's like getting a map of, like, what is the landscape? What am I eating? What am I doing? And once you have that all out there, then you're kind of overlaying that with, that sentence that I was talking about. Like, if we're trying to eat twice, like, how do you do that exactly? That's what I talk through in the next video then. How do you lose weight with fasting, and how do you transform the eating that you're doing that we went through in this video into a process that'll open up enough fasting space for you to start burning through blood sugar. And as we're normalizing that blood sugar, we're trying to create the hormonal environment in the body where you have access to the body fat, because people don't realize, okay, insulin, when you're in a high insulin state, because either diabetes, prediabetes, insulin resistance, who are just eating frequently enough, the insulin is high. That insulin signal's blocking access to the body fat, make it very, very difficult to lose weight. So that video shows how to open up that space. You see the sequence, the easiest way to do it, just have a coffee or tea, open up that space, very thoughtful space, just as much of it as you feel like tolerating or want to experience. And then as you build skill with it, you can increase the amount that you want to do it, but never stress. See, that's the progression. And I really do love this one. No stress weight loss, find a calm, thoughtful space. That's what I'm trying to model with the live session. This is kind of what it is, Take an open space and you say, okay, I can't just sit around with a coffee. I got to go to work. But take that mindset with you. That's what it is. The mindset. A calm, centered, thoughtful space. An attitude of openness and positivity. And you bring that into whatever it is that you're doing. And then we talk this one, dial in the level that's right. We talked about how to start in with it. Maybe it's just eating twice. But then there's open space beyond that. Moving thoughtfully into 1 meal a day eating is like turning up a dial of the intensity, and it can be finely tuned, the amount that your system, your experience is about right at that moment. But as I start having people into eating once in a day, then I start seeing a much more profound weight loss effect. Sometimes I tell people somewhere in one of these videos, I think it's this next one, better weight loss results with lower expectations. I do love all these videos. These are such good things to think about. People have really high expectations, right? People want to accomplish things very quickly. And I'm not opposed to people accomplishing things quickly. It's just that when we have the expectation of it, if we start falling short of things, it's very easy to get discouraged, right? If we're falling short of an expectation, then we start feeling bad, and that is a negative cycle of thinking. And sometimes I see people who are on a great track, but it's not quite as great as they want, then get discouraged and quit. And that is something that we want to avoid. Everything that I try to do with every type of thing I do is try to help people find stability, grounding, so that it can be a long-term process. So when we lower our expectations, it helps us to think long-term, make long-term plans, and it helps us get out of our own head of being so emotional about everything. Because when we're very short-term focused, it's very easy to have our emotions dominate everything, make short-term decisions. And I tell people, one of the lines I use in that video is what if you lost 1 pound in a month? And I kind of joke about how people, can think it sounds so ridiculous. And I agree. Okay, 1 pound in a month, not very much. But when you think about it from a certain perspective, okay, the average person and the vast majority of people actually who try to lose weight weigh more a year later, okay? So their weight loss is negative when you average it out. So anything that tips the scale in the right direction that you can replicate without being stressed, and especially if you can feel good about it, that's good. So 1 pound, and you do that over a year, and you say it's minus 12. And then over a couple years, in the big picture, minus 12, minus 24, minus 36. It's very rare that you find someone that sustains minus 36 pounds over 3 years. That's putting you way out in the 95th percentile of people that ever lose weight or try to. And so I say that might be good enough. It really might. And then the reality is that you can lose weight much faster than that. But you want to start from a foundation that is very stable And then once you know that you can sustain that and that you feel good doing it, then you work on dialing up that process. Queen Bee says, if it's your drug of choice to feel better, it is hard. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely it is. This last video I did this weekend, I did a little comment on that, like to be able to accept a little bit of temporary discomfort in order to have a beneficial outcome. Like, especially in a transition, to learn how to do it. I'm not going to say that fasting can't be experienced as uncomfortable. What I want people to start to do is to reframe it, though. One of these early videos in here, I think I did that in a way. I said, fasting is a lot. Oh, it's in this hunger series. Maybe we could just go there. So going through this core series, and I love that. That's a really nice process to go through the core series. A lot of good thinking and understanding. And then somewhere in here, I have the hunger series. And that's kind of a nice place to jump to next. Yeah, hunger series. Because people say, okay, I go through this whole process, core series, I've mapped out the food, I'm getting the windows, and I'm trying to sit in that space. But then one of the big struggles is hunger. People say feeling hungry, and we say feeling hungry feels uncomfortable, or it feels intense, or it's like the part of it that makes it difficult, especially for some people. And then that's the interface with the boredom, with the stress, right? Stress eating. It's like, okay, I'm dealing with this, I've got this family issue, I've got this work issue. It's like we feel overwhelmed. It's like we have a certain amount of bandwidth to handle issues in our life. And then it's like, okay, and I also want to be healthy. And so you say, I just don't quite have the bandwidth right now to deal with feeling hungry. You just want to eat something. And so this is how we can get stuck in this space where it's like we're using food as a coping mechanism because it works, right? And I'm not going to sit here and say it doesn't work. Like if you are stressed out, has this been your experience, and you eat something, like it can help you feel better. It is, like Queen Bee says, a drug of choice. Other commenters on the channel have called food like the acceptable drug in our society. We say we don't like to necessarily think of it that way, but we use it as a drug, I think, many times. Okay, so how do we balance all of these things? That's what I want to do in this hunger series, I think. Yeah, for me, it makes things worse because of diabetes. That's the thing, and it can really all start spiraling. That's the sort of thing. And what I'm describing, the stress eating, the cycles using food, right? This is the process that actually creates diabetes and then sustains it. And so we want to pull that apart. This is the roadmap, right? To try to unwind that, to go through these processes and thought processes. So if you're in that sort of space, which many people experience, you haven't practiced fasting historically, you have been told in your life, hunger is bad, you should never experience it. And we're products of this culture where we're watching all these things. There's billions of dollars of media coming in that wants to sell us products to fix our problem of hunger. This video, Reframe Hunger and Supercharge Weight Loss. That might be the most hypey title that I have on my channel. Supercharge, that's a little clicky. But I do think it's true. It is true, because when you see hunger as an enemy, as something that you should never experience, well, you're not going to practice fasting. You're going to run away from it and think it's bad. And it will supercharge it. I mean, that's the honest truth. To say, if you see hunger as neutral. What I say in this video is hunger is really neutral. Like eating is a enjoyable experience. We can feel better, okay? And then I say like you fall down and hurt your leg, okay? It's painful, negative experience. Like hunger is pretty much in between those. It's like the absence of a pleasurable experience more than the presence of suffering. And when we come to see it that way as pretty neutral, then you can start to embrace a little bit of it into your life. Then you're opening up that food-free space, and then you are allowing the body hormonally to drop that insulin down and start to access blood sugar. So it is the truth. Supercharge weight loss by reframing the hunger. So how do you reframe it? That's the rest of the series, right? How do you feel good? I love these videos because I did it when I was out west. So this one is in the Tetons, and this one is in a beautiful lake I hiked out to in Yellowstone. How to feel good in a fasting space, realizing that hunger is temporary. And I talk about the hormones that are actually controlling hunger, ghrelin. And we think of our thoughts so often as like, oh, they're our own thoughts. But many of the ways we feel actually just hormones controlling that. And when we start to see that some of these emotions aren't really what we think they are. They're just hormonal patterns in the body. And we realize, oh, like hormones telling me to feel this way. It's not really like who I am or something. We make it so intense. It's like, and you realize, oh, hunger and come and go can make it easier to get through it. Stay hydrated. That's this one. Staying hydrated. Coffee is hydration, right? So helpful. And then getting artificial sweeteners and chemicals out. Love all these videos. I think if I was going to make a video channel, when I look at this, I say, man, if I was going to make a video channel, this is what it would look like. Well, it's what it is. I wanted for years to make resources like this. I'm so happy to have it. I just love it. Permission to lose weight. Can you give yourself permission to lose weight? And then these couple videos, feeling hungry all the time, these were some user-generated kind of videos, people commenting in, really struggling with hunger. And so I kind of respond to some comments there. In that. So if you're struggling with hunger, okay, Hunger series is full of all of my best thoughts on how to deal with that. Some people don't really struggle with hunger. There's like the balance, people have all kinds of different perspectives coming in. Sometimes people eating just because they've been told you have to do it and you're not even hungry. Sometimes that's the easiest path to fasting, is just to realize you don't have to eat all the time. Like if you are overweight, if you have, it's just more energy storage. It's more resources that your body has. Somewhere on my list of videos that I want to make is just a video about if obesity is really a disease or not. Because from a certain perspective it is, but from a certain perspective it isn't. And, the thing that I want, someone who is struggling with weight, who is struggling with obesity, you say, it can be so frustrating because it's like, this is my body. And it's like, how come I can't control my own body? Like, I want my body to do this, and then we can't control it. The body just responds to the environment. And so that can be frustrating. And when we don't know how to navigate it, we can start to develop anger and resentment at our body. And that can be part of like self-hatred, self-loathing. And that can be a very frustrating place to be in. Yeah, Queen Bee says, like, body keeps the score, right? The body keeps the score. If we're developing a negative cycle like that, okay, the body internalizes that. And I think that starts to be a process that can lead to many other types of disease and illness. Yeah, this is a common cycle. It's a common cycle. And so these mindsets that I'm putting through on the playlist, right, are the ways to unpack that and get out of it. That's why I put, on the playlist as the mental health process for weight loss is like the first thing. We need to get our headspace in the right place to help us move forward. Okay, so we went through kind of the first videos, how do we set ourselves on the path, and then we went through the core series, go through the hunger series as we're trying to get into that mindset. Yes. When you put it out on paper, right? Like, why would you do something that is hurtful to yourself, right? These are the destructive, the self-destructive, the negative cycles. We are hurting in some fashion. We're dealing with trauma. We're dealing with a difficulty, conflict, stress. And then many times that ends up, we take that as an outlet, and instead of, in some ways it's good, right? We're trying not to be destructive to other people or things, but then we just turn the anger, the frustration into a destructive force, and we like unleash it on ourselves in some fashion. And so this is a type of space. This is the type of thinking that helps us get into that root level. Why do we engage in behaviors and practices that in the long term are hurtful to us? And this is somewhere I want to make a series in here, like a journaling series is probably going to be the thing. Journaling and fasting, just journaling on its own also is like, but how do you get into that space and unwind it? Absolutely. You're outlining the practices that all these things, right? Therapy, journaling to me is becoming your own therapist, right? A good therapist, in a lot of ways, is like a mirror. They're reflecting back and giving you space to let you see more objectively what's going on. So you can do that. The journal can be that for you. And so getting into that mental space, why do I eat what I eat? How I eat? Why do I take these actions? I just love that. Prayer, meditation, exercising, breathing. All these things are the ways to start to get into that space. And rest. Yeah. So from a hunger series, then when you think about resting a little bit, then it makes me think of the fasting space series. Where is that on here? Up here, fasting space. So this series of videos is my attempt to give people some thoughtful spaces, experience to get through food cravings. So you say, okay, I've gone through this whole process. I understand technically the idea of fasting. I've worked through these patterns, gotten the mindset on the hunger, but then the actual doing of it, you say, is also still a trick. Even if you know that hunger is a hormonal pattern, and even if you know that it will pass, okay, to actually do it and walk through it can be very intense. So fasting space are like my best thought to say, hey, here's some videos where you can tune in to some peaceful spaces. I've filmed some time lapses of sunrises and sunsets, and there's little me sitting out in a field for an afternoon doing kind of a nature meditation. And you can join me out there in these spaces. I love this one, fasting with clouds. I sat up on my roof filming the clouds, and then just thinking about open space, the sky. And these are some beautiful spaces, I think, to pass a little time if you're trying to get through a food craving and create a little meditation space. Like this one, Earth Prelude, And this one, Lullaby for Christy. These are two of my favorite songs. This one, I filmed this time lapse of the sunset over Madison here. It was great. And a time lapse of the lighthouse that I visited. So those, if you're looking, then say, okay, where does the rubber meet the road? Really dive in to the space, but with some help. Guided, I got the guided meditation on there. So see if that helps you actually do it. That's the thing. And then if you can do it once, that's usually the hardest part. So do it once, and then you realize, like, oh, it wasn't so bad. It's over. The hunger came and went. We had that fasting space. Oftentimes it's refreshing. Like once you get through it, and you're like, oh, it's good. And then that can be what the path is like. Like if you're just new to start it, easing into it, we've talked about, find a thoughtful space. That's what we're trying to do here together, right? Practice the thing. Here we are in the morning. Food-free space. And, to me is very pleasant once you get used to it. Queen Bee says, deleted Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram again. Yep, it's a practice. Everything, is a practice. Fasting is a practice. And, I've interacted over the years with I'm sure thousands of people at this point who are working on fasting, working on weight loss of all kinds. People very linear in their thinking, right? And we picture weight loss should be a straight line always, right? And we get a practice, and then it's like the same every day. But the reality is, like, life is like this, right? Like it's not a straight line. And there's ups and downs, and difficulty comes. I just think, have you had a family member in the hospital, going through a thing, or have you personally been through, something? Is like you have all these plans, and then, like, what is that? This is a quote from Mike Tyson, right? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth or something, right? Like, that's life sometimes. Sometimes you get hit in the face, and it's like you had plans, and then life happens, right? So, and then also there are just cycles, like in life and seasons. And so some of the videos in here, I've kind of incorporated our thoughts of seasonality. And I think it can be a really, really helpful perspective to not be so rigid in our thinking, and to realize, okay, sometimes I have, or sometimes we can really lean into things. We can feel like, hey, I've got a lot of ambition and mental capital stored up. And you just feel it, I'm going to dial in, on whatever your thing is, on the path, wherever your path is. Find your path. For the moment, it can be different, Sometimes exercise might be your path, if it's the summer and you're like, man, I'm going to get up, start walking more, or start jogging, like whatever it is. Go swim because I can get in the lake. Whatever your thing is, lean into it for the season. Sometimes you say it's the cold winter. Definitely exercise is not my path now. Now I'm going to lean into the fasting. Now I'm going to lean into the healthy eating. So when you give yourself the flexibility, and then sometimes you say, I'm dealing with all these struggles. Maybe now, I really like the quote, preservation is progress. So sometimes just treading water, like there's nothing wrong with that. Just not falling backwards. Like this season, I'm just going to work on maintaining, and I'm not going to, people say, like, if I had a month, I didn't lose any weight, that people feel defeated. That's why I like this one. Keep your expectations low. Then you don't have to feel discouraged. Then you can find the gratitude and realize, hey, so many people hit a difficult spell, they put all the weight back on, right? So to get through a difficult spell and maintain, like, that's a huge victory. And then the dust settles, and then you can start moving forward again. So Have I done a video on dopamine? I have not done directly a video on dopamine as far as like the neural mechanisms and how do we reduce it and all these things. The closest I got to that is on the in the lives. I have this one, screen-free, sanctuary, lose weight in a hyperstimulated world. That one, that's kind of the dopamine sort of process. So we get there in that space. But yeah, I could see doing a dedicated dopamine one for sure. And then, okay, so I'm walking through all the videos, and we got some other playlists, just, it was just kind of the random videos that are not in these series, that are kind of their own thoughts, that are just other perspectives on fasting and health, healing your metabolism, some seasonality, developing a long-term mindset. I really love this one, finding joy on the journey, overcome weight loss obstacles. I filmed myself kind of, it's like a vlog. I'm not a vlogger, but look at me hiking up a mountain, talking about like overcoming our own obstacle. I do love that. And then don't we have another section, 2025? I did 2 videos this last week. Fasting like a weight loss champion. That was an analogy that I made in a live last week about running track and how like you're trying to be a sprinter, you're running out on a track, you feel terrible at the end of a race, but then it's like you also feel good. It's healthy, it's exciting, it's fun. It's like, how do you find that line where you can do something difficult, like running track, running a 400-meter dash? Difficult, okay? But like, you embrace it, right? So like, how do we find a healthy thing that is like positive? We just find that line, okay? We don't want to overwhelm ourselves. You can watch the video. I think it's thoughtful. And I did this one this weekend for Independence Day, declaring independence with fasting. Really love that. Anyway, there's a tour through the videos that I have put out over the last 2 years. Christy is with us. Good morning, running late. So nice to have you here. Keeping busy and fasting. Yes. Drinking water. This is the thing. I have, sometimes I've run into people, in a weight loss counseling. They say, I'm too busy to do anything. And to me, a fasting practice is a perfect weight loss practice for busy, stressed out people, because if you got all the space in the world, you say, okay, I can go to the gym, and if you have a mind to do it, you could spend 2 hours. You can lose weight going to the gym, and you can lose weight by developing a walking routine. I had a guy, when he retired, his whole retirement plan, he's just going to start walking, and he started walking like 6-7 hours a day. And he could do it, like he was in a physical shape that not everybody can do that. But that was his thing. Okay, he just started walking, and he lost tons of weight. Okay, so it can do it, but it's the rare person who can devote their entire life to just walking. Okay, somebody, you got work, you got family, you got kids, you got things, and you got to make meals, you got to do these things. You say, I don't have time for anything. Okay. You can fast. Fasting is nothing. Fasting is open space, and it's taking away. It's stress relieving. It should be on so many levels. Opening up fasting space in a busy schedule is like more time to do something else. You don't have to take the time to do more shopping and cooking and cleaning the dishes and all this stuff. And you can be doing all the other things that you have to do while you're doing it. And now you're killing multiple birds with one stone, right? You are opening up the fasting space, which means you're running the system off the reserve energy. You're giving the body autophagy space so that you can reset the hormonal structure of the body, lose weight, burn blood sugar, all of that is good. And you're getting your work done and you have more time to do it. So hopefully that is bringing stress down. Love it. Love it. Jen says, I'm confused by all the fasting info. I want to start fasting, but how should I do it as a 48-year-old woman? I would love to just chat about this for a while. Yes, if you look around the internet, you look at all the channels, you look at things, a lot of people make videos fasting for women, and I have intentionally not made a video like that. I might though, because here's my perspective. You know, there's pretty much just people. I've just got to say, and fasting, there's people. And if people are having a hormonal cycle that interacts with fasting, like, that's just something that you can note, because some people do and some people don't. And if some people experience menopause differently, and some people say, oh, is it easier or harder? Like, to me, whether it's menopause or a cycle or you're just a human being, like, you know, there's plenty of men who experience fasting as difficult for certain reasons, and there's plenty of women who experience fasting as difficult for certain reasons, and there's plenty of people who don't. And so I just haven't really appreciated that the reason that someone is having difficulty really matters. And so I think that, to all, if someone finds a content helpful to talk about a hormonal cycle and say, hey, when I'm in a luteal phase or whatever, I find it harder to fast. Like, this is just an example to me of how to approach it in general. Whatever the reason is, if you are struggling, is to recognize it. And this is what I was saying before with the flexibility. I like another video I have that I want to make at some point. It is a concept like intuitive fasting. In the medical practice that is dealing with eating disorders, approaching anorexia, right, is like the very opposite end from fasting, right? Someone fasting because they want to try to lose weight, they're overweight. Okay, someone with anorexia is on the very other end, is like the big contraindication of fasting. I hope my son helps my poor doggy barking. The approach that people often have to an eating disorder called intuitive eating is like, okay, what is the message my body is sending? Let's listen to that. And eat when it feels appropriate to do it. This is something very important. Someone who has struggled with an eating disorder needs to build that. Some people would say, well, that advice seems like the complete opposite from fasting. And in general, I would say that is true, except once you get used to it. Here, I'm going to just take 1 second. Most of the time it's true. But this flexibility, that's what I want to try to help people build. Is to say every day doesn't have to be the same. If for any reason you don't want to be stressed out. Here, I gotta help this poor dog. For any reason, you can have flexibility. For any reason. And so, however you feel, if that is varying through the month, if that is varying over time, someone says, okay, before menopause, I used to be able to fast. Now I can't, okay? People have all kinds of reasons for it. So whatever the reason is, look, we just have the reality of the situation right now. And so whatever you're going through, you say, where do you start? Okay, if you missed the beginning of this video, I don't know who all was here. Start at the beginning, like this sentence. Just go in. If you're eating 5 times a day, you go 5, 4. You don't have to dive right into some really intense fasting practice. So if you are here, you say, like, how should I start? Let me just go through. I would start on this core fasting series. Go through it, go through your current eating, and start working the process. Go through all these practices. Find where you're currently eating. Get in the mindset. Start to open up a little bit of space. Never stress about it. Find this level. Might be 5, 4, 3. What if you never got to patterns that are like what people are saying online? Like 16:8, people say, oh, do 16:8. Well, what if you never got there? What if you were still eating 3 times a day, but you'd cut out so many snacks and it started working? Like, all we're trying to do is to find something that works. And so much of the time, the message that our culture sends, the classic teaching, is like, try to lose weight by eating little bits all the time. That would be a way to kind of summarize it. And that's a very, very difficult space for people. Little bits of food all the time keeps you hungry all the time, pretty much, because people don't usually want to eat little bits all the time. You eat a little bit and you're like, where is the rest? I want more. And so eating frequently is a recipe for continuous hunger and eating more. It's very hard to eat more times and eat less in a total amount in a day. It's a great way to gain weight. And so, like, if I'm working with someone and they're like, I'm trying to gain weight, what should I do? Like, well, eat more frequently, more meals, more food coming in, okay? Great way to gain weight. Trying to lose weight, eat fewer times is easier to eat less. Much easier to eat nothing than to eat a little bit. This is a great way to get into kind of a fasting mindset. Do you know that Pringles commercial, like, bet you can't eat just one, right? You taste something salty, like a chip, like, you're going to want more of it, right? But if you never had it, and especially if you never saw it, that's this video in the hunger series. Create your perfect fasting environment. Like, if you're looking to try to start fasting, well, create a fasting environment, a fasting space where it makes it easy to do it. Like, if you're gonna try to start fasting and then, like, your walk to work goes by 3 bakeries, it's gonna be hard. You're like, oh, I'm gonna, so maybe walk on the next block over and find a way to get there so you don't have to walk by all this tempting stuff. Is that starting to answer your question, Jen? Let me know if that is, if some of these reflections are getting to a zone that is helpful. Excellent. So that's a walkthrough. That is a walkthrough what is on the channel presently. And I appreciate all the ideas that we have had in the chat. And I will keep that as far as, other video ideas. Maybe I like the idea of making kind of my own fasting for women video, but it is kind of pushing back on this idea. I think so many of the fasting for women videos that I've watched have made it seem like, oh, that you can't do it, or that it's so difficult. We make it a struggle for people, or to say that, oh, our women are just so disadvantaged with fasting because of all these cycles. And it just creates so much difficulty for me that we have to think about all these things. I mean, the hormones are real. The hormones cause effects, but how we move toward it, I just have found that it doesn't necessarily help to dive too deep into it. Is just to say, hey, this is the reality for whatever it is, and we can be thoughtful and gracious with ourselves and just move toward, no matter what the thing is, we can move toward it in a thoughtful, gentle, graceful way, no matter what we are experiencing. and then just be flexible with ourselves. To me, that has helped a lot of people just navigate that. A dopamine specific video we discussed. I do like that. Okay, so that's kind of the roadmap through the videos. And then last week we had the roadmap for the lives. And, the roadmap for the fasting, start at the easiest place, gently moving toward it to increase the intensity as needed. Use these tools, a fasting space, hunger series, like whatever you're dealing with, the mental health things, the obstacles, making sure always to be gracious and thoughtful with ourselves. So Jen, that's the thing. Like, that's one of the main reasons I started my own channel a few years ago, was just to say, so many of the fasting resources that are out there are very intense and rigid, and there is benefit to having some amount of schedule and routine, and that can turn into rigidity. The benefits of having a set schedule and a routine and doing the same things. Okay, we are creatures of habit. So many of the hormonal processes that are happening in the body, especially with digestion and insulin and all of this, are cyclic. And so when we eat at certain times every day, the body tends to make us feel hungry at those times. And so in the moment, it's hard to change that. But changing the pattern is what changes it over time. It tends to take 2 to 3 weeks to reset a hunger pattern. So if you're eating 6 times a day and your experience, I'm always pretty hungry, it's because the body is always having to be running these digestive systems. And so it has to get a lot of hormones and chemicals ready to do that. When you switch into dedicated eating times, I eat at noon, I eat at 6. Usually by 3 weeks, the body's getting it. It's like, oh, okay, I'm someone who eats at noon and 6. It takes 20, 30 minutes for the body to make the digestive hormones and enzymes and all this stuff. So 11:30, the body starts kicking that in, and 11:50, you're starting to feel hungry. The message from the body is like, hey, we're pretty sure you're going to be eating at noon. We're just letting you know. We have gotten all of the hormones and digestive juices prepared so that we can handle the food processing efficiently. And so it's like time to eat, we know it. Because we know what it's like when our digestion isn't organized. Like if you feel bloated, unwell, and the body is trying to keep that all efficient. So sticking in that pattern, there's nothing necessarily magic about doing the same thing every day. Some people says, well, my friend's coming over for breakfast. Usually I have a fasting window, is like I eat at noon and 6, but today I want to do it different. My friend's coming for breakfast. I want to have breakfast. Well, you can eat a breakfast and a late lunch and then open up a fasting space in the evening. Some people say, well, that's not my window. My window is 12 to 6. Then they feel rigid and stuck. See, this is the thing. A fasting practice should be giving you flexibility, and it should be you should fit it into your life in a ways that just makes everything better. So I would never have people skip socially important meals with friends. Food and family. Food is how we connect with people. It helps us, connect on a deeper level, sharing a meal with someone. So you don't want to, in my view, be so rigid that you feel like this is making my life worse. That's not going to be sustainable. And with everything, there's a balance. Sometimes for people, if you have the mindset, you say it's not a big deal. People just go out to coffee, and if your friend's going out for breakfast and you can sit there and have a coffee, you say, oh, this is what I do. Most people not going to care, so you just have to feel, but what is important to you, That's where I encourage people to go in a journaling space to write out what are the food experiences that are important to me, that make my life better. And you want to have that. That's what makes it sustainable. And so work the fasting in a thoughtful way that gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you the open food-free space that gives you access to body fat and helps you get your weight where you want, and gives you the social experiences that are meaningful, that bring joy and meaning to life. Got to balance that out. Send in during the week. In the chat now is fine. In the comments, send me a note. You got simplefasting.com. You can always send me an email through there if you want during the week. Do you have specific sessions that you would like for the live? I would be happy to dive in. On the top of my list, it's viewer sent in a request to do a session on building or maintaining muscle while fasting, that they want a session on that. I do like that as a topic. That's something good. We want to be strong always. Some people will criticize, well, if you're doing fasting, isn't that going to make you, are you going to burn up your muscle? No. Especially not if you do it thoughtfully. And so maybe we should do a session on that. But are there specific topics that you want? I have a few that I'm lining up to put together. Let me know. And then we dive in on that. Really nice to have everybody here. Thanks for the commentary and discussion. I really thought that was nice. That's what I enjoy, kind of the interaction, answering questions. I want this to be a really open space. And the whole channel, really, I want it to be like a conversation. And I really like the times as I've been reflecting on this that I've been like I keep saying viewer, I'm trying to say, viewer guided content. And some of these videos that I've kind of collaboratively made with people have been fun to do. Happy to do more of that. And then the live, I think, is nice. Looking forward to continuing with that. So I hope you have a great week. And I will see you again next week.